Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Tekken Talk. Today, we are talking about a pretty important topic from a Tekken consumer perspective, and that is the monetization and the potential monetization practices of Tekken 8, as well as reviewing a bit of what happened in Tekken 7. And for the first time in Tekken Talk, really looking at other fighting games and talking about how they kind of relate to Tekken. So I'm recording this episode largely in response to the recent kind of pricing of Street Fighter 6's Costume 3 DLC, as well as kind of in response to the whole Mortal Kombat 1 fiasco with their pricing of microtransactions, but really focused on Street Fighter 6 because I think Street Fighter 6 is viewed as kind of the most direct competitor to Tekken. And I think Tekken 8 has already brought in a lot of kind of inspiration from Street Fighter 6 into its development, from the like kind of arcade style walking around stuff to a focus on an enhanced practice mode and kind of a bright, vibrant color palette. Like, I think there's enough overlap to where they're really taking note of what each other is doing and incorporating it into their game. But so just to kind of recap a little bit on what's been going on in the news in case you haven't been paying attention. So, as I'm sure we're all aware, like the next gen of fighting games or the next wave of fighting games is upon us. It has arrived. It started with Street Fighter 6. It was preceded with Mortal Kombat 1's release, and finally Tekken 8 will come out in January, kind of completing the trio of the three biggest fighting games. And you can even throw Guilty Gear Strive and KOF 14 in there, or 15, excuse me, as kind of being the next generation, leaving behind the PS4, Xbox One era of fighting games. And Street Fighter 6 arrived with like a ton of praise, I think universally, from its gameplay, from its feature perspective, from the new characters. Most people seem to love them. I personally love Marissa. She's who I play when I play Street Fighter 6. And yet there was kind of like a unexpected monetization element that unfortunately came when the Ninja Turtle collab was announced. So they announced these kind of Ninja Turtle costumes, not for playable characters, but for your own personal avatar. And to have these Ninja Turtle costumes for your own avatar, which were pretty minimalistic, was $15. Note all of the values used in this video, I think, are going to be within a $1 range. So if I mess up, I think it should be within a $1 range if my memory serves me. But they were about $15 in real money for this non-interactive, like, you can't play as Ryu with a Ninja Turtle costume. You have to play as your in-game avatar. And they were $15. So right off the bat, that's just kind of an absurd price for a cosmetic in what is already a full price game. And this is kind of one of the biggest like points of contention is they're pricing these cosmetic DLC higher than most popular free-to-play games in an already full price game. And, the community was generally pretty outraged by this, and there was quite a bit of pushback. I don't know if there was enough to deter them, which we'll talk about in a second here. But so that was kind of the first big DLC. This monetization is like, with Street Fighter 6 being so successful and such an awesome game, it's really, we don't want this kind of aggressive monetization, not only in Street Fighter 6, but in any game. And so then Mortal Kombat 1 comes out, and Mortal Kombat 1 says, "Hold my beer." I don't know if that's a totally outdated saying or not, but they're just like, "Hold my beer." And we're coming out with a $12 fatality. A $12 fatality, which is like a animation you can do after you win. And it's about 3 to 4 seconds long. Maybe that's an understatement. Maybe it's like 10 seconds long, but it's a 10-second long animation for $12, which is a how much is how much is the fraction of 60 or $70? So 12 divided. So it's about 0.17 times the price of the game. So almost a fifth of the game price for this one fatality, given that each character in the game, which I think there's about 20 of, already has two fatalities. So this was absurd, and again, there was lots of pushback from the community, and I think lots of pushback even from bigger content creators. So okay, that's great. We're getting pushback. Naturally, Mortal Kombat 1 didn't stop there, as the costumes in Mortal Kombat 1, they've charged around $10 for these costumes as well. And that's just kind of egregious. And a lot of the reason for how these prices become so high is because the games have an internal currency system that isn't just USD or isn't just Canadian or isn't just whatever your actual real life currency is. You buy in-game currency with real currency, and that in-game currency you can only buy in increments that are inconvenient, essentially. So if I want costume A, and costume A costs 300 coins, I can't buy 300 coins, I have to buy 250 coins, which means I have to buy 250 coins twice to get costume A, which means I'm overpaying, but it's not really overpaying. See, here's the thing. It's just an illusion of a price. The 300 coins is made up. It's manufactured by Street Fighter 6. So the actual price is 500 coins. And there's no real relation between the coins and real life money. For further proof there's no relation between the coins and real life money, the in-game currency, at least in Japan, and at least according to what I've seen being posted about this, expires in 6 months. So there's an expiration date on the in-game currency. Okay, so that's Mortal Kombat 1 and Street Fighter 6. So Mortal Kombat 1 is kind of ongoing with this monetization problem, but I want to return to Street Fighter 6 because I think Street Fighter 6 kind of has a pretty recent and unacceptable release, which is this Outfit 3 DLC. So for those who don't know, Street Fighter 6 has 18 characters, each of which has 2 costumes, and in this newest release of DLC, you can now get a third costume for each of the 18 characters. And of course, one of their first kind of controversial moves is there is not a costume pack, but rather you have to purchase each of the costumes individually. Okay, so what's the price of these costumes? So this is exactly the analogy I use. So the price of the costumes is 300 in-game coins. The price of 250 in-game coins, I believe, is $6. Or the price of 300 coins is $6, but you can only buy 250 coin increments, which basically means you have to spend $10 to get one costume. And then to get all of the costumes for 18 characters, all of the third costumes, would cost $100, which is more than the price of the base game and more than the price of, I think, even the deluxe edition. It is more than the price of any other fighting game. I believe you can get KOF 15 for $60 and Guilty Gear Strive right now on sale for $40 on Steam for the price of a third costume in Street Fighter 6. And note, a third costume for a game like Street Fighter 6 is already less than their main competitor, Tekken 7, which at this point has like 4 costumes per character. Admitted some of those were DLC. But so right off the bat, $6 per costume is absurd and unreasonable. And this is kind of where I think the community needs to be focusing on more. So a lot of the community, from kind of the feedback I've been seeing, is focused on the unacceptable nature that you have to buy these in-game currency, which costs $10 to get the $6 character. And I think that is a problem, but I think the root of the problem is just the pricing of these things. $6, even if you can pay the $6 off the bat, is unacceptable for a character when DLC characters cost $7.50. And when $6 is the standard price for characters in other fighting games, such as Guilty Gear Strive or Tekken 7. And again, to get the costume for each of the 18 characters will cost more than the price of the game itself. So I've been a little disappointed in some of the kind of bigger Street Fighter 6 content creators saying this is ridiculous, like, but the price is okay, so $6 is okay, but this kind of coin currency based system is not okay. Anyway, I bought all of them. Let's look at all the costumes. And the bought all of them part, I'm pretty forgiving because, right, that's some of their jobs, and so they're going to cover that, and I have no problem with that. But like, let's also call out that $6 per costume is just absurd. And so we're getting to the point where I'm pretty concerned about Tekken 8's monetization. So if Tekken 8 follows Street Fighter's kind of path, then we're going to be seeing just absurd and unreasonable monetization. And I think because Mortal Kombat also has this problem, the likelihood that Tekken 8 follows suit is definitely non-zero. And if we look at Tekken 8's pre-order bonuses, for example, the cost of the Ultimate Edition, which is like the highest, I guess, the most premium edition you can get, is $110. And what separates the Deluxe Edition from the Ultimate Edition, the Deluxe Edition being $100, is cosmetics. And those cosmetics are 32 Tekken t-shirts. So you can argue that those are 32 costumes, I guess, but 32 cosmetics and 3 avatar skins. So right off the bat, it seems like it's not going to be as egregious as Street Fighter 8, but this is just a pre-order bonus, and already we're paying like $10 or premium money for just premium money. That doesn't really make sense, but we're paying money just for cosmetics in the pre-orders. And I think a lot of people think that cosmetics is what's reasonable to be charged for DLC, and I kind of agree with that. But again, going from these avatar costumes and avatar skins, these are not like real costumes for like King or Law or Nina. These are just for like this in-game avatar. So my concern is already that there's going to be a separation of DLC between, okay, you can get the season pass, which again, I know this is not how you're doing it off the bat, but you can get the season pass, but that only applies to avatar skins, or that only applies to characters. And, charge a lot for it. And so, kind of the last thing I want to mention here in this, I guess, kind of, I don't know if it's a rant, but this kind of extended conversation is that it's really important for us to push back if we see this kind of aggressive monetization start to happen in Tekken 8. So if Costume 4 of Tekken 8 will cost $10 a character, let's push back against that pretty hard as a community. If there's a secondary currency within Tekken 8, let's start pushing back very hard against that as a community. Like, I don't know if people know this, but in Street Fighter 6, you can't buy individual characters. You can only buy character passes. If that becomes a practice, let's push back, right? People should be able to get only the character they want instead of having to spend, again, half the price of the base game to get potentially characters they're not interested in. And, Tekken, the Bandai Namco team, is not above kind of aggressive monetization. We all remember the frame data issue where frame data costs $3 in Tekken 7. But okay, I guess that's kind of all I want to talk about today. A little bit of a call to action, and that, tweet at the Bandai Namco team, tweet at, respectfully, of course, but tweet at Michael Murray if any of this really aggressive or unacceptable monetization comes up, and don't let Mortal Kombat 1 and Street Fighter 6 normalize these practices. Anyway, thanks for listening. I know this was kind of a negative feeling episode, but you can always reach out to me on Twitter if you want to talk about it more. And have a great weekend.